Good evening. This is Maestro Cortello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 2v2 on Desert Showdown. Our first player today is Commissar Sebastian Yarrick, playing as the Commissar Lord. The Commissar Lord is a slightly tanky melee hero. He does start out with that free energy shield. It's the worst energy shield in the game, only a 2.5 to 1 damage to conversion ratio, but it is free. And you just get that and make the Commissar Lord just a little bit tougher, and as well as make him immune to knockdown when you activate it. He can also buff his own troops by making them fight harder after he shoots them in the head. Alright, next up we got PhatE playing as the teleporting Warp Spider Exarch. This is an Eldar ranged hero. Also fights pretty well in melee though. Good for just teleporting around the map, harassing points, decapping, as well as harassing squishy infantry squads by bleeding their models. On the other team, we've got SuperHooper playing as the Plague Champion. The Plague Champion is a ranged hero. He starts out that way. You can get melee weapons. He can also heal with Worship and Mucus Discharge. He can also repair vehicles as well as build turrets. And then finally, we've got Floid playing as the Tyrant Hive Tyrant. We just saw like a little, just like something, I don't know, it was like saliva or something just like leaking out of his claws or whatever, but either way, tanky melee hero. He cannot be knocked down or suppressed. He's so big. He can also become invulnerable with one war gear. He can charge with another one. He can also shoot bioplasma, which isn't actually that good, but it's just another option that he has. And we've got like an early double, I guess, from, well, just both. Pretty much everyone is actually right here by the contested VP, so both players just went to this contested VP. It looks like they did fight, they did like kind of capture their own sides, but they've kind of brought the battle immediately to the middle. Looks like the blue team had the early lead in VPs, and I'm sure a lot of that probably had to do with PhatE's Warp Spider Exarch teleporting around and capturing the point. That being said, right now it's evened out at 1-1. Yarrick has gone for a double Sentinel build, and he's only got one Guardsman supporting it. Now this is interesting because this build is actually pretty common, and it's actually surprising to me how well it works out considering you only have one Guardsman squad around for repair support. And that's a pretty squishy squad. It can get forced off pretty easily, but I mean the good things about this are that you have two Sentinels, and then that's actually quite a bit of range DPS. Normally the weakness of a single Sentinel is that a single Sentinel doesn't actually do that much damage, but when you double it, then it actually becomes pretty significant. And he can really keep the Sentinels out front, and that really actually keeps the Guardsmen pretty safe. Now, Red Team did get the double cap. Double Sentinel plays can be particularly effective against Chaos, although I would say the Plague Champion is probably the hero who it's least effective against, since ranged heavy builds are most common with the Plague Champion, because he himself contributes a lot of range damage, and they can also be supported by Heretic Worship heal support, which can make it much, much harder to just attrition down the Chaos Space Marines with the Sentinels. Anyway, it looks like some Chaos Heretics here. They have upgraded to grenade launchers. They got suppressed by this Guardian weapon team, but they did get out of there, and he's actually still keeping them out on the field as repair support. Now, this is something that this double Chaos Space Marine play, it's in a way, specifically with the Nurgle Worship, it's kind of specific to the Plague Champion, and it's something that works out pretty specifically well with the Plague Champion. Getting double Chaos Space Marines, also having the Plague Champion, and then just having like a wall of ranged fire, a wall of very durable ranged fire getting healed, and can actually be pretty difficult to deal with. It's actually proven to be a pretty powerful build. And again, it's something that's actually pretty unique to the Plague Champion because of two specific factors. The fact that his worship heals, and also the fact that he is himself a dedicated ranged unit to start out, which is not quite true for either of the other Chaos heroes. Anyway, Banshee's right here, actually in quite a bit of trouble. We'll probably see at least one model go down, maybe make it two. I don't think we'll see the entire squad go down, but it's still a very close call, and they get out of there with 12 hit points and two models still. Pretty close. PhatE has gone for a double shuriken build, which is not uncommon at all. He's got his shurikens defending his power farm, and we actually do have the Hive Tyrant equipped with that Bioplasma war gear. Of course, it's not really a war gear for the Tyranids, it's a biomorph. And unfortunately, we saw a potential use of that ability, and we also saw why it kind of sucks. It completely missed the Guardian Weapon Team, and when it completely missed the Guardian Weapon Team just stayed up, and he was hoping to both damage the Guardian Weapon Team as well as disrupt it and gain the edge in that engagement, and it didn't happen. And I think that has to do in part with some of the targeting difficulties of that Bioplasma ability. He's also got the improved Synapse. This is just, it gives allied Tyranids an extra 25% health, and also gives him some extra health of his own. So Yarrick is going for this build. He's for the most part, he's actually getting pushed back. I'd say the good thing though is that he's not really getting pushed back in a way that really costs them a lot. Like he's not losing power farms from getting pushed back. The most he's losing is he's losing his natural VP. And to compensate for that, he's going for a decap on the contested VP with his Commissar. However, he does have to be very careful. Actually, yeah, he's not going to get that off. Now, this is a build that Yarrick does. Now, just doing a single Guardsman into double Sentinels is not terribly uncommon. There are many players who do it. Yarrick very regularly does this, and he rushes to tier 2 when he does this. He did not spend much power at all in tier 1, so his only power expenditures were getting Sentinel Stomps, and just the combination of just a Guardsman and 2 Sentinels, even with those Stomp upgrades, is a very cheap tier 1, so he got to tier 2 before anyone else, immediately upgraded to missile launchers, and now he's getting some Stormtroopers out on the field. Meanwhile, I'm really surprised at how these Hormigons are just, yeah, I was going to say, the way they're just staying there, and not ignoring that dire Avenger Squad. But I mean, they could just continue bashing the generator, like, with relative impunity. They just get damage resistance from being in melee, that they can actually just attack the generators, and the Dire Avengers, they'll do damage, but at the same time, the Hormigons should be able to just kind of tough it out. Pretty close call. I thought that Guardian Weapon Team was going to go down there, especially from the Hive Tyrant, maybe attacking it in retreat, but that didn't happen. Fortunately, we've got a pretty bad situation with both blue team heroes have been knocked. Oh my god! Just that double missile barrage completely destroyed that squad of grenade launcher heretics. Having an aspiring champion would have saved that squad, but they'd still bleed models horribly. Now we've also got double Stormtroopers out of Yarrick, and he's actually immediately going for double Assault Kit Stormtroopers. And this is interesting. I always think that, like, if you have multiple Stormtroopers, maybe you can leave one without an upgrade, just in case you need to have, just in case later on you find yourself needing that Melta upgrade. And especially because Stormtroopers in their vanilla form are very functional. You can use them very effectively in their vanilla form. They do 60 DPS. They're a range squad with 60 DPS, which is pretty good. It's better than any tier 1 squad out of the gate. So they have pretty good DPS, even just in their vanilla form. That being said, of course, they do get even better DPS once they have the Assault Kit, and they also get increased range, which is, I'd say, the real advantage of the Assault Kit, that increased range. Oh, there, the Bioplasma actually did do quite a bit, killed 3 models. 3 models off of something, and those might have been Banshee models, so that was actually a pretty nice Bioplasma, actually doing something there. He's got such a long windup just to use a kind of a mediocre attack. But that time it worked out. Anyway, we've got these Sentinels with the missile launchers, and that's actually really, really good to actually. I think that kind of turns the things in Yarrick's favor, because normally I'd say the Chaos Space Marines with the Nurgle Worship are going to do pretty well in an attrition battle against Sentinels with the multi-lasers, but once they have those missile launchers, like, no way, because those missile launchers are just going to be, or the missiles themselves really, are just going to be doing way too much burst damage. Now, I don't think it's really worth his time to go for the Plague Champion with the Sentinels. I think it would be more worth his time to switch to the Crack Missiles and start hitting some generators. Although, the Stomp might be worth it, especially because now we're in a position where this Plague Champion is most likely going to go down. Actually, I think he might get lucky just because of the fact that he's got the Armor of Pestilence. A grenade in retreat could have made him not so lucky, though. As it is still coming pretty close to going down, but doesn't. And now he's going for that bash. And you know what? Between all the squads he has here, he should be able to get a lot. It's still a pretty slow bash, but Node goes down. I'd say maybe if all of these squads here focus fire like one generator. All right, they got another generator. But what do we got from SuperHooper right here? He's got one squad with Tzeentch cast with the mark of Tzeentch. He's got another one that still doesn't have a mark, and he's probably still just waiting on the resources to get that upgrade. Actually, he's got the resources, but it would also be kind of an inopportune time. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, he's upgrading to it right now. All right, so Yarrick calling off the double and very smartly backing off before he loses things. And I'd say Imperial Guard can be especially vulnerable to doubles, especially if you're going for a double Sentinel play, since you can definitely lose your Sentinels if you get doubled. Howling Banshees charging into some Horngrounds that were probably just kind of forgotten about as they were going to the generators. And PhatE is chasing quite a bit. I think he should actually, well, he now has his Banshees kind of extended ahead, and he can always use that to like go for a flank of some kind. Or he does have to be careful. He, of course, doesn't see all this. He doesn't see all these Tyranids coming. Now he definitely sees it. What do we have on this Warp Spider Exarch? He's got improved targeters to improve his damage. Also the enhanced warp generator. Meanwhile, we've got an autocannon heavy weapon team right here, or an autocannon havoc rather, which is definitely murders Guardsmen pretty badly. But the combination of the Stormtroopers as well as the Sentinel should be able to take care of it. Meanwhile, we've got double Tzeentch cast Space Marines bashing generators right here, which is pretty good for them. Gives them some experience, and they, especially with two upgraded Tzeentch cast Space Marines, they will do quite a bit of damage. So they should be able to take out the generators pretty quickly. Alright, now it's PhatE getting doubled. He's just retreating all of his stuff. So Yarrick gonna have to be a little bit careful. He is moving in, but again, he needs to be careful. But he is gonna get both the. He's gonna get both of his. Well, he's gonna get two VPs basically. He's gonna get the natural. He's gonna get the contested, and they've actually got the red team natural. So it will soon be a triple cap. Although it won't last too long because we've got Floid back over here to recap his own stuff. Anyway, oh, we've already got the Emperor's Wrath from Commissar Yarrick, so he also rushed to Tier 3. And this is another thing that he did where he went very light on Tier 2 as well. He went light on Tier 1 and then light on Tier 2. Now, he spent a lot of requisition in Tier 2 because he got double Stormtroopers. That's going to be 400 requisition each. And then he only got the Assault Kit, which, if I remember correctly, is actually just a requisition upgrade as well. So that means that Yarrick spent no power whatsoever in Tier 2. So although he definitely spent a lot on... He spent a lot of requisition, he spent no power. So he just saved all the power that, you know, other people would spend, like getting like 250 on like a... Well, not 250, like 100-something on a Dreadnought. And he just saved all that requisition, so he just... Or he saved all that power and allowed him to get to Tier 3 pretty quickly, despite spending so much requisition. So, and he prioritized getting the Emperor's Wrath. Now, it's weird, because Yarrick, he definitely has, like, his own way of playing Imperial Guard. And I think, like, a lot of other Imperial Guard players, if they tried this, wouldn't be able to make it work as well as he does. Although I think it's also... What he does is also, I think, more team-specific. Like, I don't know if the stuff he does is quite as viable in 1v1. Anyway, missiles shooting down, and Yarrick needs to be very, very careful with how he micros his Sentinels, because the Tzeentch cast Space Marines, definitely one of the best units in the game for taking out Sentinels. Anyway, Plague Champion now in a little bit of trouble. And, oh, I thought we were going to see a Pestilence Strike, but I guess part of what PhatE did was he tried to bait it out, I think. He ran in with the Banshees and then ran back out, hoping to bait out that Pestilence Strike. And, of course, the Pestilence Strike would have screwed the Howling Banshees, but, well, it didn't work out for the Plague Champion. Now, the Plague Champion has the Plague Fist, the Armor of Pestilence, and the Mucus Discharge. And we also see some Brood Nests that are just going to go down. Yarrick needs to be very careful, losing a bunch of Stormtrooper models right there. I think losing a total of, I think at least one of those squads he needs to get out of there. But there is, he's got a Manticore and he's got the Emperor's Wrath. So now he's got like 2 Manticores because, I mean, the Commissar Lord, once you give him this ability, or I guess the warrior is called Emperor's Wrath, and then the ability is just called off-map artillery. It's basically like you have another Manticore. Your Commissar is a Manticore, and it's so ridiculous. We've got a tier 3 Lictor out of Floid, and I don't entirely know how he lost all of his stuff, but I'm going to guess it has something to do with the D cannon. All right, we've got SuperHooper's ranged heavy build. He really hasn't gotten that many squads. Here we go. That's going to be another singularity. That's going to be really bad for these heretics. Heretics can get pulled in, probably going to lose everything except the aspiring champion, and that's exactly what happened. Meanwhile, a bunch of things died over here. Yarrick going to lose his guardsman squad, definitely cutting it pretty close. And we even have a Hive Tyrant that has the Venom Cannon of all things. Shoots a Bioplasma, actually knocks over a bunch of stuff, but doesn't kill, only kills 1 model. That Venom Cannon Hive Tyrant. You know, I actually feel a Venom Cannon Hive Tyrant could be okay for hunting down the Manticore. Like, if he gets in range of the Manticore, he'll probably take it out. Like, if he can find the Manticore, just get in range of it, he'll probably take it out with that Venom Cannon. Alright, there's that Pestilence Strike. Stuns the Commissar Lord. And although I'd say the Plague Champion is kind of taking on a little bit more than he can handle at this point. We've got the Banshees from PhatE, but they're only at 3 models, and they're also at half health, so they will need to get out of there. Might even take a model loss in retreat from this Chaos Havoc. And Havoc actually just runs out of there, not even bothering to open fire. I guess just because he knew he'd be taking so much damage from the Sentinels as well as the Stormtroopers. And we also have a Warp Spider Exarch now going for decaps on the on these requisition points. And he can do that. I mean, that's 20 requisition that the red team won't be getting anymore once he decaps it. And of course, even once the red team recaps those requisition points, they won't get the 20 because it will need to re-mature. Now, the damage of these Inchcast Space Marines is positively ridiculous, and they do straight up win over. They do straight up win over the Stormtroopers. Like, even if the well, I'd say certainly the main thing that they're just possibly going to have an edge on is, well, they have better range, but just in a direct fight, the Stormtroopers are going to lose, even Assault Kit Stormtroopers. The Zinchcast Space Marines are both tougher and do more damage. Anyway, right here we've got a Carnifex. No upgrade yet, but upgrading to Thornback. BP lead for the red team, but we've got an army size favoring the blue team. And wow, what was the Warp Spider Exarch doing over there? Well, I know what the Commissar was doing over here. He just got flesh took by this Lictor, this tier 3 Lictor, and the Commissar Lord goes down. So again, both heroes down for the blue team, and that's generally a pretty bad situation, losing both heroes. Since of course, if you just lose one hero, it doesn't hurt nearly as much in team games because you can always just have your teammate revive you. But when you lose both heroes, that's when it's really bad news. Because one of you guys actually does have to buy back. It's not really bad news, but it's not good. Anyway, Sentinel still alive well into tier 3, stomping this Plague Champion, but he still captures the point. And I mean, look at actually how much damage he's tanking. Now that's a combination of just him having more health from the Aura of Pestilence, also the range damage resistance that he gets from using Pestilence Strike. Oh my god, that one hit took out like a third of that Guardian Weapons team's health in retreat. So yeah, just look at the chunk it took out of the health of that D-cannon right there. Yeah, unfortunately, Yarrick just kind of charging in with these Stormtroopers at this point, and they can't exactly just charge in. Losing models right there. I don't think they even achieved a whole lot in that particular engagement. Meanwhile, we've got some guardsmen trying to tank the damage, and unfortunately, it's not the greatest idea to tank the damage against double Zinchcast Space Marines. If anything, I would think he was lucky there to only lose a single model. But, I mean, luckily for Yarrick, both the Stormtroopers as well as the Sentinel outranged the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. Wow, Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines did not lose a single model there. Maybe, wow, really lucky to not lose a model there. 130 hit points, and still all 4 models. Things definitely could have gotten much worse for them. Here we've still got that Las Cannon Havoc being chased down by some Howling Banshees. Howling Banshees now not in such a great position. They actually get knocked down by the Lictor Alpha, or no, just the Lictor just charging in. Now this could potentially be a good situation. Pestilence Strike cannot be used by this Plague Champion because he does not have enough energy. That's but he's got something else up his sleeve. He had the Aura of Decay ability, which actually just charges with damage. I was looking at his energy and saying like he's got no abilities because he's out of energy, but in that case he used an ability that charges with damage. All right, this Sentinel is now in a pretty bad position. Maybe it will finally get taken out. It's especially if the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines move up a little more closely. The Sentinel needs to keep moving though. And now Sentinels have really been staying on frag missiles, and they might want to start switching to the crack missiles to start hurting the Carnifex. Generator goes down just from that Stormtrooper fire, and he just retreats. Gets out of there without losing any health. And but we got a great unclean one for SuperHooper, which is not such great news considering some of the compositions that both Yarrick and PhatE have. Yarrick really does not have a lot in terms of super heavy infantry power. His Stormtroopers, they are pretty high DPS overall, but the problem is that they do... Oh, that's going to be the end of the Guardsman Squad. So Yarrick lost his Guardsman Squad, and that was going to be like his best option for damage that he could do to the Great Unclean One, since he could have gotten plasma guns on them. But the Stormtrooper's not going to do a whole lot of anti-super heavy infantry damage, just because they do piercing damage, which super heavy infantry has a very big resistance to. So the Great Unclean One will resist 70% of the Stormtrooper damage, which is pretty significant. You know, I almost strangely I would say like the best thing that the blue team has against the Great Unclean One might even be the D-cannons. Now the Sentinels can do damage, but fairly low damage, pretty low DPS. We do now have, let's see, we've got a Bright Lance from PhatE, so that actually will be pretty good. There's another Emperor's Wrath. And Yarrick has also been floating massively, clearly going for a Baneblade. PhatE himself, what is he going for? He does not have a whole lot of resources, but he does have a whole lot of red, so maybe we'll see him do something with that.
Put down another Tyrant.
But VP is actually getting... Ooh, what is with the positioning on this D-cannon? Yeah, definitely needs to move back. VP is now getting pretty low for the blue team, so they need to make something happen. A Manticore Strike is happening. That might just take out this Grenade Launcher Heretic Squad, except for the fact that a bunch of those VPs went all over the place, and a Vomit from the Great Unclean One completely destroyed that D-cannon. This is actually not looking good at all. I think the best they're going to hope for at this point... Well, Commissar goes down, and the Great Unclean One is just going into base, and unfortunately this is a consequence, I think, of them not really having a great source of damage against the Great Unclean One. I mean, they're really just laying in with everything they have, but they don't have anything that's specifically, like, especially does a lot of damage to the Great Unclean One. So, on the bright side, they're going to get a single cap on this side, or it's now a 1-to-1. We've also got the Commissar, not the Commissar, the Plague Champion trying to capture the natural VP, and you know what? He's going to get it. And that's just one of the things he can do when he's just this tanky. He tried to throw 2 grenades on him. But this could possibly be the end for the blue team. They just can't seem to get something on the point. And I mean, the Plague Champion just being so tough now, you know, I actually think, well, we got a Baneblade, but it is coming pretty late. And I don't know if this Baneblade is going to be able to make enough of a difference. Alright, so Stormtrooper is going to capture this point, and as well as I think the Warp Spider Exarch going to capture over here. I don't know, he's not going to be able to capture the point though, or even get a decap off, just because this autocannon just doing too much damage. Now the Stormtroopers might go for the cap, but I think this is risky business. They just get revealed immediately by these warriors. We did have a Commissar flare to try to slow them down. Yarrick might lose his own Stormtroopers in the process doing this, but now it's... I don't know if they can continue to hold on. They need to at least get the decap off. It's a 1-to-1, but we still got this Hive Tyrant on the point right here. And I think the Banshees are going to go for the Hive Tyrant, but I don't think that's going to be enough, because, yeah, he's just going to get on that point. He's going to get the cap. So now it's a 2-to-1 for the red team. The blue team going to need to get this point right here. And the Hive Tyrant actually goes down, which is not terribly surprising, but he still managed to put on some VP pressure at a time when they just don't have much time. Doom of Malantai is out. I actually almost feel like the Doom of Malantai is not that great of an idea, because it just might get wiped by these Howling Banshees. You know, it might even be worth it to trade Howling Banshees or to trade the Doom of Malantai. Oh no, he's going to lose the Howling Banshees. The Doom of Malantai goes down. I was actually not expecting that. But anyway, the Baneblade is right here. I almost feel like, well, that Doom of Malantai really didn't do much, but I was wondering if its own paroxysm was doing friendly fire damage, but I think the main thing was just those Dire Avengers were still doing some ranged fire, and just bringing the Doom of Malantai that close to Banshees, unfortunately, was just really not good.
Capture the location. We're here. Let's get to it. Sir, they've a solid 200 points
So
now.
2-to-1 for the blue team, but at this point they cannot afford to give up an inch or technically they can't afford to give up 17 VPs, but I really don't think they can afford to let a double cap ever happen in favor of the red team. Now, ooh, PhatE, it says waiting to use phase shift 999 red. Interesting. I think PhatE, he's waiting to use phase shift. Oh, and there was just some more Emperor's Wrath, and as long as as long as SuperHooper keeps blobbing up all of these Zinchcast Space Marines, they are going to be very, very vulnerable to the Emperor's Wrath, especially because that's just going to do a ton of burst damage that it doesn't even matter if they get healed or whatever. Alright, and now it looks like we've got the red team making their big push, and they're going for the win. I think they need to put something on the point if they just want to take this, because over here we've got a back cap by some Howling Banshees, and it's a really big engagement over here. But you know what? Overall, I feel like it's favoring the well, I think the blue team is getting pushed off, but at the same time, well, they're getting pushed off, but they're still going to keep the double cap. The red team is going to get the decap off at the very least. Carnifex now out in trouble. We've got the Emperor's Wrath, or is that going to be a Demolisher cannon shot? Either way, nothing happened. And the Hive Tyrant is in the middle, capturing the point. Meanwhile, we've got Howling Banshees guarding this point, and we've got the Plague Champion going for another decap off. This could be the end, because they're not going to be able to get that Hive Tyrant off the point. And it's one of the potential values of these tanky melee heroes, or just tanky heroes in general. Where is the Eldritch? Unfortunately, it misses everything pretty much. And we need an immediate Sentinel decap on this point, or just anything to cap. Oh no, the Sentinel is just going to go down. Just going for that decap at a time just because he felt like he really needed it. Meanwhile, the red team probably going to get a capture. I think the Stormtroopers need to go for the cap, or the Commissar load. Either one. They just need to get that thing on the point. They need to get a unit on that point, because now it's a double cap for the red team. Oh no, so I think that's actually probably going to be it. Unless, I don't think they can get the single cap off in time, and we've got the Imperial Abyss to end it. Yeah, and that's going to be the end of the game. Red team take it. Nice try by the blue team to try to bring it back, but the game is over. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.